Two teenage girls, two sets of murdered parents. One got out in 20 years, the other will die in prison. Here's why. Midnight on Halloween, 2002. A 19-year-old woman walked downstairs in bare feet. Her parents slept upstairs in their $11 million São Paulo estate. Susan von Richthoven approached the security panel. She entered the code. The system went silent. Then she unlocked the front door and opened it. Two men stepped inside. They did not speak. They walked past her and climbed the stairs. Susan did not follow them. She walked to the living room and sat down. She waited. Upstairs, Daniel and Christian Cravinhos raised a heavy metal bar. Manfred and Mauricia von Richthoven never saw them coming. Within minutes, both parents were dead. Susan had grown up with every privilege. Her father was a German-born engineer and director at DERSA, the state highway agency. Her mother was a prominent psychiatrist. The family net worth exceeded $11 million. Private German immersion school, 3 languages by age 18, top grades, international holidays, luxury cars. But Susan later described her childhood as emotionally distant. She said there was very little love in her house. She buried herself in her studies to avoid conflict. Then, at 16, she met Daniel Cravinhos through her brother. He came from a modest background. He used marijuana. Her parents disapproved immediately. By May 2002, Susan's parents had seen enough. They forbade her from seeing Daniel. They threatened to cut off her financial support. Susan did not accept this. She told friends their decision was unconscionable. She continued seeing Daniel in secret. When her parents went to Europe in July, she invited Daniel to live in their house for weeks. They returned to find him there. They kicked him out and gave her an ultimatum: stop seeing him or lose everything. Susan asked them to pay for an apartment so she could leave. They refused. Earn your own money, they told her. That refusal changed everything. By October, Susan was having private conversations with Daniel and his brother Christian. They talked about what life might be like without her parents. She later admitted she sometimes wished her parents were simply gone. The three formed a plan: stage a robbery gone wrong. Susan would disable the alarm. She would open the door. The brothers would kill her parents while they slept. Then they would ransack the house and take valuables to make it look real. Susan gave them gloves and stockings to avoid leaving evidence. She told them exactly where her parents slept. Halloween night was chosen for the attack. At midnight on October 31st, Susan turned off the alarm. She opened the front door. The brothers entered and climbed the stairs. Susan stayed downstairs. The brothers beat Manfred and Mauricia to death with a metal bar. Then they ransacked the house. Susan and Daniel went to a motel to establish an alibi. Christian got food. The next morning, they picked up Susan's younger brother from an internet cafe. They returned home together. Susan pretended to discover the bodies. She called police at 4 a.m., screaming hysterically. On the call, she sounded like a grieving daughter, but police would soon see through the act. The forensic evidence told a different story. The perpetrators knew the alarm code. They knew the house layout. They knew exactly when the parents would be asleep. Then Susan's behavior raised questions. In the days after the murders, she went swimming. She attended a birthday party hours after her parents' funeral. Christian bought a new motorcycle with cash. On November 9th, police brought all 3 in for questioning. They confessed. Susan admitted opening the door, but she blamed Daniel, saying he manipulated her and introduced her to drugs. Daniel and Christian said Susan was the mastermind. She gave them gloves. She planned everything. The trial began July 17th, 2006. Susan's defense argued she acted under Daniel's pressure. The prosecutor, Humberto Tardelli, called her the head criminal. He said she wanted the $11 million inheritance. On July 22nd, after 65 hours of deliberation, the jury found all 3 guilty of aggravated murder. Susan and Daniel received 39.5 years each. Christian received 38.5 years. The court rejected Susan's claim of coercion. She acted willingly, the judge said. She served her time in Tremembe Women's Penitentiary, a maximum security prison in São Paulo. Appeals failed. The sentence stood. While Susan sat in prison, another teenage daughter committed almost the same crime 8,000 kilometers away. Sarah Johnson, 16 years old, shot both her parents in their Idaho home. Her father had threatened to report her 19-year-old boyfriend to immigration. Her parents confiscated her car. On September 2, 2003, Sarah put on a shower cap and a pink bathrobe. She shot her sleeping mother in the head. Her father ran from the shower. She shot him in the chest. He bled out on the bathroom floor. Sarah ran to a neighbor screaming about an intruder. Police found her DNA inside a latex glove and brain tissue on her bathrobe sleeve. Sarah Johnson's trial was broadcast live on court TV. The jury deliberated one day. Guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 2 consecutive life terms without parole, plus 15 years for using a firearm. He told her that if Idaho had the death penalty, she would be a candidate. She had looked her father in the eyes and shot him in the lungs. As of 2026, Sarah remains incarcerated at Pocatello Women's Correctional Center. She has no possibility of release. Her appeals are exhausted. The Idaho legislature has shown no interest in changing her sentence. She will die in prison. Susan von Richthoven served roughly 20 years of her nearly 40-year sentence. Brazilian law prohibits life imprisonment. Good behavior reduced her time. In 2015, she moved to semi-open parole. On January 11, 2023, she was granted full parole. She now lives in Bragança Paulista under her married name Susan Louise Mani Moniz. She has a husband and a young child. Daniel Cravinhos works in aeromodeling. Christian was released by 2025. 2 daughters, 2 sets of dead parents, 2 justice systems. One walks free, one never will. The question remains, should 20 years be enough for opening the door to murder?